if you have as a value the transparency, it's difficult to apply it in the daily basis. To apply this, you need a full trust in your team, and they need to trust you. But the benefit of doing that on every basis is, I think for a startup, it's key, because when you face difficulty, you can share it with your team because they have the same level of info as you. When we have difficulties, the team is not surprised, They are more in a statement where they want to help, focused on how can we help and do some actionable things to succeed.
Is everything over? Shall we give up on the gaming industry now? Shall we stop trying making games, building studios and companies that have the power to positively impact the future lives of millions of players, professional and humans? No, we don't. In this special track of Rise and Play, I will be focusing on the unspoken topics around building game companies, founders teams, fundraising, pitching, rebounding after closing your studio company or losing your job, by bringing guests who are going through the same storm of 2024 like you, and keep fighting. I will also share openly my own process, trials and error, and step-by-step building the new game company Killen as the first-time CEO of a game company. I believe we are stronger together, and we don't have to go through the storm alone, because at Rise and Play, we are not alone. Oh, and one last thing, as you feel supercharged by listening to this episode, it will mean a lot to me, and if you haven't done it yet, that you hit the follow button. It will help with the discovery of the show so other people can benefit from the content too. Thanks, and now let's get to the episode. So welcome to another episode of Rise and Play, and in this special series, as we're digging in the creation, the survivals, the journey of studios that have been created the past few years and how are they doing in 2024. I am super excited actually to have Charlotte Lavergne with me today. Charlotte and I met 15 years ago. It starts to be a bit embarrassing to count those numbers. But yeah, when we were both producers at Gameloft. And at the time that was very interesting, we're moving away from premium mobile games to free-to-play games. And it started on a browser, web platforms. And among those web platforms, like social network, was Facebook games. So Charlotte and I were both producers on an iconic game at that time that was the copy of Farmville, Green Farm. So maybe if you check it up online, you may find some videos of it. That was the version of Farmville, but green. So it was a journey in itself. And then what started like a venture project inside Gameloft became the main business model for the industry with free-to-play games. But that was fun time, and we reconnected through a career with Charlotte. But more recently, especially, is through the creation of companies, because the women that fund studios, raise money, and run studios are rare these days. So we know of each other. And so Charlotte in 2020 with her co-founder founded Supercosi, that we will get in a moment too, or started to build in 2020. And before I say more about the studio, where it is today, the joys and the struggles of 2024, I'll let Charlotte introduce herself and come to the podcast. Welcome, Charlotte.
Thank you, Sophie. Thank you for this podcast. I'm very happy to share with you today my experience, and especially the experience of founding a studio with all the adventures, the up and downs that we have to face when we are entrepreneur. So at the very beginning, I'm graduated from business school, so I'm more a business person than a creative person. And when I go out of school, I really wanted to work on media industry, and I wanted to entertain people. So I began my career in newspaper and TV in France as data analyst and communication manager, but it was not enough creative for me. And since my childhood, I was passionate by video game. Since I get my first Nintendo NES, and at the time I thought that video game was not for girls. And one of my friends did an interview for a position at Gameloft, and he didn't get it, and come back to me and say, oh, look at this company. They are searching young people to become producer. It's project management. It's close to your skill. And you are passionate about video game. And Gameloft was the leader of mobile game at that time. So, in my head, I said, oh, why not? My chances are low, but let's try. And I did the interview, and I was hired in 2009. And in this company, I had the chance to learn about how to do project management, but especially for video game and managing teams all around the world to produce around, I think it was a dozen of games in 2 years.
Yes.
There. The rhythm was very, very intense in Gameloft, but I had the chance to experience different kind of gameplay, different kind of production difficulties and challenges, and I learned a lot. And at the end of this experience, I worked with you, Sophie, on the first free-to-play of Gameloft, Green Farm. The economic model was quite new. Very few people in the world know how to run this kind of game at that time. Everything was new, and we have to discover and find a way to understand the user, understand how we can gain money with a free game. And it was very, very interesting and very data-oriented. So it was a sort of link with my past skill as a data analyst, and it was very useful for me to have this background at the time. And after Gameloft, I jumped in another company called Kobojo at that time. And why I joined them is that Kobojo was a small startup specialized in this economic model for Facebook game at that time and mobile game. They were specialized in casual game and then move on to mid-core game. And there I work on 10 games. I spent 7 years in the studio and at different positions. I started as product manager, so more on the marketing, the project marketing, monetization manager, production director, and marketing director. And the value and the culture of the company was really based on exploration, on testing, on prototyping, and I really, really enjoyed it. You were allowed to tackle some other mission and to explore other kind of skill if you wanted. So also a great period of my life because I had my child. I had a baby during this experience, which is the second main challenge of my life, to be a mom at the same time being a producer or a founder of video game. After this 7 years in Kobojo, I go to handle a studio of animation for kids. It was very different in terms of production pipeline. You don't produce an animation series as you produce a mobile game. It's close, but the type of team, the type of contracts, the type of skills are slightly different. And the type of funding too. You get the money on different way and you sell it on different distribution platform with different constraints. So I had to adapt. It was super interesting, but Isard Digital, which is the famous French video game school, come to see me and propose me to be the head of academic there. And I wanted, after Kobojo, to have new skill, to learn new type of jobs. So I said, okay, why not? I'm going to leave the production. I won't have the same objective. In production, your main objective is to sell your game, to have a great game in order to entertain people. But financially, it's important too that it bring money to the studio. In the case of a school, it's a bit different because your client is your student, so it's pretty strange, But I really like this new challenge, handling all the educational part of the school. So the mission of the school is to teach game design, game programming, game art, sound design, and producing to the students in order they can join the video game industry with the best skill as possible. But as you know, our sector is moving fast. So even for schools, they have to adapt quite in real time to the need of the studios. And at the same time, I wanted to continue to produce because my initial love is to produce video game. And in 2020, I decided to build my own studio with Jean-Baptiste Fleury, who is my co-founder. I met Jean-Baptiste Fleury in Kobojo, and I was at TISAT at this time, and come to me for a lunch in 2020 and proposed me to build our own studio of development and edition of mobile gaming. And we are both really passionate about gaming and especially about this platform and all the constraints that a mobile game provide us. We really like that. So it takes a few years to build it. But the initial point is 2020, right after COVID.
Okay. Thanks for sharing the journey. I would say several points maybe of commonalities in the decision that you've made in the different switch, taking the challenge, learning new skills, and also revisiting those choices as opportunities presented to see, okay, maybe like you moved away from production to be more in the academic part. And actually, I remember also I visited the school, so it was nice to see you from that side. But yeah, the itch for production always comes back. And so I do want to spend some time actually in the genesis of a company because those moments are quite important. And some say that they make or break the company at the very early days, although you don't see the result of it only a few years after. So that's why I do want to spend a bit of time here. So Jean-Baptiste, that you mentioned, comes to you. You didn't know about him, right? I understand. Just a casual lunch and then makes the proposal. Okay, I have that idea of a company and I want to build it with you. Is that what I'm understanding correctly?
Absolutely.
Okay. So I want to start first the question on your end. What developed in your mind that you were thinking of building a business the years before? Because like you said, you were probably maybe ready mentally before, just the opportunity didn't present. What was the journey, the development to that moment where, okay, I think I know I want to jump on this?
It's a combination of different factors. It depends on where you are in your personal life. And to build a company, you need a minimal amount of money too. So sometimes it's a bit difficult to do it on your first year of work. For my part, in 2020, it was about 2 or 3 years I was in Isart Digital. And I began to feel a sense of monotony. As each year seems to blend together a bit. Because in a school, the rhythm is really the same each year. The learnings can change, but the rhythm is the same. And I really enjoyed there to build a new process, to optimize the existing process of the school, helping the student. But I needed new challenges. And I started to miss the commercial part of production, to have 1,000 of users playing your game, give you some feedback, like it or not, but giving you some feedback. I really wanted to have that back in my life. So the only thing is that I needed to have the good partner to do that. I didn't feel enough self-confidence to do it alone. And let's be realistic, I don't have all the skills needed to build a company. And when Jean-Baptiste come to me and say, oh, let's build a company, we can be complementary, we evaluate these possibilities. So we listed together what are our forces and our lack of skills and say, okay, can we complete each other? Do we need to hire other people in order to complete these skills? And the result of this calculation is good. Let's say Jean-Baptiste is more publishing, he's really good in fundraising, in networking, and more expert in production. And I discover during the past years that I'm very good at financial and administrative stuff too. So it was a good deal.
I'm quite curious now how you spent the first year. Like you started more with the who, the team. So I understand that you spent time to agree, align on the roles, who will do what, how you are complementing each other. What are we doing and how are we starting, right? So the questions that come after when you have the people is how are you going to start and to start what? So how was that process for you and who led it? Like, what's the product? What's the mission of the company? What will we do?
So first, we were only Jean-Baptiste and I during 2020. And during the rest of the year, we concentrate our effort to think about the why and the product and how we will do it. So we worked a lot on the vision and our pitch first, why we are doing studio, which game we would like to produce, what is the state of the market at the time, especially. Is there a place for newcomers, especially in mobile market, which is quite crowded? In which segment especially? So we spent many, many times to read data of the market and to do many calls with our network in order to feel, a bit the market and to take information about which studio are working on what and why they are doing that, to get some inspiration and to see if bigger than us are already tackling the segment we would like to take. And the important question too is which kind of game we would like to do, but which kind of game would be reasonable to produce for a small studio. At the time, we had no money. No money, and JB and I, we are not programmer. We don't know how to draw. So we are not game artists. We are business people and managers. So we think about how can we produce a game with a reasonable budget, with a small team, the low risk, in order to have a chance of success with a small budget. And after, we work on the values and the work methods we would like. First, we work it together, and then we work it with the team we hired. And the year after, in 2021, JB and I tried to pitch our studio to Station Up. I don't know if you know this incubator. It's the world's biggest incubator. It's based in Paris. And we pitched them what could be Supercosi. And committee of validation in Station Up is very demanding on the companies they choose. They choose to be part of their incubator. And when they say yes to a project, it was the sort of first green light for us. And we had a talk with Jean-Baptiste, and we decided to create the entity legally and put money on it. So both of us put our savings in the company, 50-50. And it was the official start of Supercosi. And as the money were there, we were able to start to hire people. So developer, game designer, game artist, in order to produce our first prototype. So with my past experience at Isart and Kobojo, to meet great people, talented people, and I proposed to two developers that I met at Isart who were entrepreneurs too, to join the company. And also to a game designer we worked with at Kobojo. At the start, we were 5 people, and we worked on our free time during the evening because each of us had a job.
Oh, so you still had the job at that time, like this whole first year? Okay, so that's an important information, yes.
Yeah. Because all the team were senior, and we had a family and financial responsibility in personal life. So all of us were working at the same time, a full-time job. And during the night and the weekend, we were producing the two first prototypes of Supercosi. It was a very exhausting period, but also a very exciting period, It's like, you don't know it will work, but you have a strong idea, strong vision. Everybody is sharing the same vision as you, and it's super exciting. So we produced 2 games. The first one called Cutty Block. The LTV was very low. And the fact that the quality was low too, I did the game art with the programmer because we didn't have a game artist in the team at that time. And we also did the sound design ourselves. So the quality was so, and with no surprise, the LTV was not good. But this prototype let us work together and learn how to work together. And just, it's sort of sanity check that we are all aligned on the work methods, what we want, etc. And then with all the learning of the first, we did a second prototype called the Word Search Puzzle Challenge. The 2 prototypes were launched in 2021. And the second game presented good KPIs, a good LTV, good KPIs, quite promising during the soft launch. And the fact that for the soft launch, we needed money. We were quite at the end of the small money that we put, Jean-Baptiste and I, in the company. And we wanted to accelerate the test on this game. And we decided to go for a fundraising tour. So we started in 2022. We managed to close a fundraising tour. So it was quite fast, to be honest. I was quite surprised. So we managed pretty well to convince venture capital and business angel to make the company grow and succeed.
So the first year, okay, you were bootstrapping with your savings. And with that money, you hired first members with the bets you have on the games. And then the second game was the one that showed promise before you fundraised. So I have a few follow-up questions during that phase. How did you decide to go for this kind of evergreen small games? Like you mentioned the budget and so on, but what gave you the conviction that that was the right market for you to pursue as yourself, as a team? You know, like you said, like there are many other things you could have done, and that was already a decision made.
So when we did our market statement in 2020, it was the sort of rising point of all the casual merge game at that time. Personally, I'm fond of this kind of game. And I would love to produce one. But the fact is that it started to be crowded at the time. And it's after a lot of hesitation with Jean-Baptiste, we decided to not go on this segment with a very small budget. It was too risky at that time. We had experience in casual and mid-core game with my co-founders, and especially social and competitive game. After some research, we saw that what we called evergreen game was the gold mine for us for starting Supercosi. What we called evergreen is all the kinds of reflection and puzzle game, kind of games that everybody knows, and most of them exist as a board game or paper game, like a chess, word search, Sudoku, domino, etc. Regarding the gameplay, the risk is quite low. We won't reinvent the rule of the chess or the Sudoku. A Sudoku is a Sudoku. We saw that in the market, there is a room for this kind of games. There is some actors, of course, already producing this game, like Scopely, Beach Bum, Triple Dot, for example. But it was not crowded at that time, and some room of improvement were possible. So we decided to go on this segment. And to give you an idea of production costs, to produce the very first prototype, it's something like 2 months for us. So in 2 months, we can soft launch and know very, very quickly if it's a good deal for us to continue or stop, which is the key when you're a small company to lower the risk. You can launch fast and see if it's work or not. If it's not working, let's go to the next production. And it was very, very important for us. This notion of risk management was really centered in our choice of game and production.
Yeah, so what I understand also from that is you chose to leverage on your skills and your strength, which is a good idea when you start a company. Otherwise, you just compete with the rest and take time to learn. But also given the budget constraints, which are also good, and it's maybe relevant for 2024 where you don't have that budget. What can you afford of trying? How many shots do you have? And how long does it take a shot, right? So if you go for a mid-core game, you have basically one shot and probably not with your own money. But what you described here, where 2 months is the window, and at the time, hyper-casual was a proven model where you can go even faster. It's like a few weeks to see if it works and move on. And that allowed you to at least learn fast and know before you run out of money if you're going to the right direction. And where I see the business applied, like thinking, what can we realistically achieve with our team, our skills, and the amount of money we have, which led to, you to end of 2022. You had your game word puzzle search challenge. Sorry if I don't say it in the right order. But I realize it's good keywords. So whoever, I mean, it's the same mechanics with hyper casual. Maybe you didn't do it, but it's important to set in the context 2022. You present a game in soft launch, right? With good KPI. Was it retention, monetization at the time? And then you have in not so hard way, funding for the seed or round A at that time, and how much was the round?
So we raised 2 million in August 2022. And after this fundraising, we accelerate. It's maximum in 2023. I think we were 15 people, mainly production. So there is a part of people working on publishing, but the majority of the headcount is on production. And the year 2023, we were focused on recruitment, culture foundation. It's not operational work, but it takes a big space in your head when you are a founder, building the values and the culture of the company, because we wanted really to have this apply as an operational way. The culture was in mutation during all this year of 2023, and also our methods and production pipeline, because it's correlated. So during all this year, with the money of this fundraising tour, we scaled the team. We hire mainly senior people and also a junior. And we build all our methods, all our pipeline, all our tools, especially a data stack, in order to continue to prototype and especially to evaluate the game potential as fast as we could in order to be fast. You know, when you are small, you don't have a lot of budget. In terms of competition, it's hard. But we strongly believe with Jean-Baptiste that our force as a startup is to move fast. But to move fast and to take the good decision, you need to have information. And the data is really key. We need to understand and to know our target audience, because when we started Evergreen, we had a stereotype in our head of what is our typical player. But we learned during this year of 2023 that the stereotype we had in our head was totally false. Thanks to the data, we saw that the typical audience is a female, 40 years old, living in USA. But finally, it's 50-50 male and female, 25 to 75 years old, being a bit everywhere, because evergreen game, you know, everybody know domino or no Sudoku, so it can hook every kind of player, even hardcore player. So we learn a lot about our players thanks all this work. And with this money, we launched in 2023 3 new games. 2 of them didn't pass the soft launch. And the last one, called Yahtzee Royale, benefit from all the learning of the first game. And Yahtzee Royale today presents a very, very good KPI. It's a potential hit game for us. Really super strong. But if we didn't have fail before on these 4 games, we wouldn't learn with our audience and how to propose them the best content and what they are expecting.
So what you mentioned with that year where you had the first round with seed is really building the team, the company foundation, and also learning how to work together, but also learning the type of games you can make, and in how you make them. And so this is also something to be very aware for the listeners building the studios, that it is a journey, right? Like building games, building companies, and that year of learning is part of the journey, right? Before you actually get to what you call your hit, it was a journey of 4 years. If we really count from the day you had the conversation, build the strategy, also the fact that persistence here, there's a compounding effect if you take the learnings in a direction to use them for the next game. So this is also maybe a comment when you are pivoting too fast to different direction. It's like you don't bring the learnings with you. So always finding the balance of, are you pivoting too early before you actually tried? And what is the signal when you have to actually pivot? I want to look at 2024 because that's also how we started this conversation for the ones who are maybe in a similar situation, where it sounds good if we were in 2022 in your situation, you have a game showing KPI. As we know, it's really difficult to fund your own growth, especially where there's nothing like an organic growth, or you need to find your own guerrilla marketing to grow like this. So it's relying still on a lot on paid UA. So what's your situation in 2024 when it comes to growing Yahtzee Royale game? Fundraising landscape even, or can you run until the end of the year? What's your situation?
So yes, the market changed a bit. So right now we are in a period where finding funds, it's hard, to be honest. The venture capital are hard to convince. They want low risk and having money back in short delays. So it's pretty hard. And we know that gaming industry, it's a creative industry. So nothing is sure. There is risk. So right now, the situation of Supercosi is that we are in a second fundraising tour. We are searching money to accelerate the growth of the studios. So now we found our hit game. The KPI is here. We started to have a return on acquisition spend positive, which is a big achievement for us because we work so much. The CPI right now are quite high, even on casual games. So it's pretty difficult to be positive when you are depending on acquisition spend. It takes us 2 years to achieve that, to improve publishing, which are the good KPI which guarantee you to have this type of revenue. And now we are searching money to fuel the marketing machine, So, and to scale the revenue, the audience, and the revenue at the same time on Yahtzee Royale. And at the same time, launching a second production with a new hire. We would like to hire a second small team. We would like to stay small, but 3 people in addition to our team would be great. It will let us to start a second product with all the learnings we had with Yahtzee. I think we found some good recipe with Yahtzee, especially about social and PvP and how to adjust this to this specific audience of the evergreen. Now we have this knowledge and we would like to duplicate it to other kind of gameplay of evergreen. But for now, we are only focusing on Yahtzee Royale in order to scale the revenue and to have a chance to succeed this fundraising tour. But you're right. The market right now is pretty difficult. The funds are still searching some video game studio to invest, but there is a bit lower money than a few years ago, for sure.
Do you mind sharing some of the key feedback you have compared to 2022? Because if you have a KPI, what else do investors need to see to make you a backable studio?
It's really depend of the funds. They have all their own, what they call thesis, they have their own lineup, let's say. But they would like to have high innovative project or technological projects right now. Some of them are searching for AI kind of production pipeline. Others didn't search that at all, but would like to see return on investment at least for 6 months, for example. So they are searching to lower the risk, not only on the product and the market, but also with the current finance of the company, ready to make an exit in the few years right after they entered. So it's a mix between your financial plan, but right now it's difficult to achieve a fundraising only with paper and a team.
Yes.
This is my feeling. Maybe I'm wrong, but this is my feeling. You need to arrive with a prototype at least, or a game, with a product, with a strong product, which already deliver strong KPI to lower the risk and present your company as a profitable company, at least a quick profitable company.
Yeah.
So it was not the case a few years ago. A few years ago, only the project stage, if the why was strong and the team was strong, for some investors was enough. But that's the case now.
That's the main theme. But what is a new information for me is even when you have show profitability, it's not enough, right? So there must be something else, like in terms of expectation of return, the size of a return, and then the window of a return, which is probably putting even more stress on your financial model, on how you monetize with your game and so on, because it's new information, not how you've built your company. Last question as we're closing today. As we've gone through the journey of your company starting 2020, with what you know today in 2024, with what are the challenges or all you've learned running the company for 4 years, what did you wish you knew, when you started like officially in 2021 or 2022? Some learnings that you can share with others in these journeys.
As an entrepreneur, I was really surprised about the value and culture part when you build a team. maybe I'm very naive, but it seemed to me quite easy or natural to build, but it's not that easy because each people is different. And to build a culture which is applicable on the everyday life with your team, you really need to imply your team. And the second learning is that if you have as a value the transparency, it's difficult to apply it in the daily basis. To apply this, you need a full trust in your team and they need to trust you. But the benefit of doing that on every basis, I think for a startup, it's key because when you face difficulty and as a founder, it's really appreciable to be not only the only one to take the decision. You can share it with your team because they have the same level of info as you. They can challenge you. They can help you to take the good decision. And for me, it takes time to apply it because it's not really part of the value of my previous company. And maybe it's French culture, I don't know, but it was quite the real full transparency the first time that I apply at work. And the benefit is here, really, on the product, of course, because it smooths all the process of communication, production, etc. But also in the company management. When we have difficulties, the team is not surprised, They are more in a statement where they want to help, focused on how can we help and do some actionable things to help the company and to find a way together to succeed. It's really helpful, I think, for everyone in a startup, because in startups there is up and down every day. And the down are very down, So you really need to have a dynamic team who is not afraid about the future and not afraid to take decision and move on.
Yeah. And that's why it's very relevant on the podcast, because at Rise and Play, it's all about the people behind the games and the main source of creation, but also challenges. So thanks for those learnings. Thanks a lot, Sharon, for sharing, those steps through the journey. Quite a long journey, but something you can celebrate for sure is the results of your game. That doesn't take away what you've achieved as a team, but there are other factors that you control less, which are the market and the financial market, who's funding what, which then place your studio to maybe think strategically on how you can rely a bit less on those external factors that you control less. And that's the context of 2024. So thanks a lot for coming to the podcast.
Thank you, Sophie.
Thanks for listening to this latest episode of the Rise and Play podcast. I am growing a community of conscious leaders across the industry and beyond. If you want to join this movement, please share the podcast with other conscious leaders, because we have so much more we can learn from each other. If you've enjoyed this episode, please follow and rate the show on Spotify or your other favorite podcast platform. It will help other growing leaders to discover the show and benefit from the valuable insights. If you would like to grow rapidly your leadership skills, you can find more insights on riseandplay.io, where you will also find my free masterclass on conscious leadership and other resources that I offer. Have a great week, and remember to take care of yourself. Until the next time.